Yeah, good afternoon. So let us start. Okay, so we are discussing about MOOPS, multi-objective optimization problem. So especially in MOOPS, we are discussing about Pareto-based optimization. Previously, we have discussed non-Pareto-based techniques. So in the last lecture, uh, towards the end, we are discussing one algorithm which is niched Pareto genetic algorithm. So I guess you remember. So niched Pareto based genetic algorithm, how it works in the sense, basically it selects two candidates, C1 and C2 at random, and then it wants to find like who is best, whether C1 is best or C2 is best. For that it creates a comparison set. The size of the comparison set will be n star, where n star is equal to some percentage of n, where n is the actual population size. If say for example if n is 100 and if p is 10, then it will select some 10 individuals at random and they will be kept in the comparison set. Then what the algorithm does in the sense, it checks whether c1 dominates everybody in this comparison set or not. Okay, then it just finds out whether c1 dominates everybody in this comparison set or not. Similarly, it checks whether c2 dominates everybody in this comparison set or not. Suppose if C1 dominates everybody in the comparison set and if C2 does not dominate every individual in the comparison set, then C1 will be chosen as the winner. Okay. If it is the other way around, that is if C2 dominates everyone in the comparison set and if C1 does not dominate everyone in the comparison set, then C2 will be chosen as the winner. Okay. If it is for example, if C1 and C2 both dominates everybody in the comparison set, or there is another option also which we have not discussed last class. Sometimes both C1 and C2 may not dominate everybody in the comparison set. That may also happen. In such cases, we will go for what you call Naive sharing. Okay, so that is what the entire algorithm is about. Okay, so how Naive sharing is done in the sense, so there is an algorithm. So based on that algorithm, so this algorithm whatever we have discussed here, so based on this the Naive value will be calculated. So basically we will calculate a value for both the solutions C1 and C2. The Naive value that you calculate for C1 is called as N1 and that you calculate for C2 is called as N2. Okay. Then finally you have to compare which is larger. If N1 is less than N2, then we say that C2 is winner. Otherwise C1 will be the winner. The algorithm in brief about Naive Pareto genetic algorithm. So this pictorially or in a diagrammatic fashion, it represents the Naive Pareto genetic algorithm. That's it, nothing else. So you can see this. So what it says in the sense, this is the entire population. Just see the or just see this is the initial population. You have initial population of size n, whole population. From this we are selecting randomly two solutions, C1 and C2. So now we have to find like who is the winner, whether C1 is the winner or C2 is the winner. For that we have to create a comparison set CS. This is the CS comparison set. The size of the comparison set will be n star. The where n star is equal to what? Some p percentage of n. Okay. So that many individuals we randomly pick up from this initial population, excluding C1 and C2. So we won't pick C1 and C2. Other than C1 and C2, some n star individuals will pick and will place here, and then we check whether C1 dominates everybody in this comparison set or not. Similarly, we check whether C2 dominates everybody in the comparison set or not. If C1 dominates everyone in the comparison set, and if C2 does not dominates everybody in the comparison set, then C1 will be the winner. If it is the other way around, if C2 dominates everybody in the comparison set, and if C1 does not dominates everybody in the comparison set, then C2 will be the winner. Okay. So this is two cases. What are the other two cases possible? Could someone say? Yes. What are the other two cases possible? Am I audible? Am I audible or not? Yeah. Akila, could you say what are the other two possibilities? One is C1 may dominate everybody in the comparison set. The other case is C2 may dominate everybody in the comparison set. There are two other possibilities. What are they? Yes. Should I? Yeah, that is one possibility. Both C1 and C2 may not dominate the CS. Okay. Yeah. And the another thing is, yeah, both may be dominating. Both C1. So the other two possibilities are both C1 and C2 may not dominate the comparison set. That is one case. We can call it as case 3. Case 4 is both C1 and C2 may dominate the comparison set. Okay. So if it is case 1 or case 2, if it is case 1, then that is C1 alone dominates, C2 does not dominates, then we will say C1 is the winner. If it is case 2, that is C2 dominates, C1 does not dominates, then we will say C2 is winner. If it is case 3 or 4, then what should we do? If it is case 3 or 4, then what should we do? What the algorithm says? Then we have to calculate what? Then we have to calculate we have to perform something called as Naichid sharing. Okay, so this algorithm you have to follow, and you have to find out what? You have to find two values, n1 and n2. N1 corresponds to what? This Naichid sharing procedure is one procedure. So when you perform the Naichid sharing procedure for C1, the result what you get is called as n1. When you apply Naichid sharing procedure for C2, the result what you get is called as n2. Then you have to compare n1 and n2. If n1 is less than n2, then who is the winner? N1 corresponds to C1, N2 corresponds to C2. If N1 is less than, C2 is winner. That is, whoever is greater, they are the winner. Okay. If it is the other way around, if N2 is less than N1, then we will say that C1 is the winner. Okay. So that is what the algorithm is about. So here is an so this here is the here this is represented as an algorithm. Let us go through this so that it will be more clear. The algorithm returns an individual from the current population. Yes, that is whoever is the winner. That is we are selecting for mating pool, the fittest one. Okay. So first what it does, shuffle the random population. So the initial population is shuffled at random. So there is a function shuffle which shuffles all the individuals in the population. Then it selects candidate 1. Candidate 1 is selected at random. Okay, so that is C1. Then it selects candidate 2 at random. Randomly the candidate 2 is selected. Okay. Initially we are assuming that candidate 1 is not dominating anybody. so that it is F. Not, it's not dominating anybody. Candidate 1 is not dominating the comparison set. Okay, that is, candidate 1 should dominate everybody in the comparison set. Even if it is not dominating one individual in the comparison set, then we will say that it is not dominating. Okay, so initially we are assuming that candidate 1 is dominated, whether it is dominating the comparison set, false. Similarly, for candidate 2 also we are assuming whether it is dominating the comparison set, we are assuming it to be false. Okay, and now let us assume that already the comparison set is available. Okay, let us assume that already the comparison set is available. For comparison set index equal to 3 to t down plus 3 do, comparison individual random population index comparison set index. Okay, if comparison set of index dominates candidate 1, then candidate 1 dominated is equal to true. Okay, sorry, so this statement, what it says in the sense here, initially we are assuming that it is dominated, it is not dominating. Okay, it is not, it is dominated. Okay, so this just, it means that candidate 1 is dominated by anybody or not. False. So initially, see, either way you can assume, but the algorithm assumes that initially nobody dominates candidate 1. That is what we are assuming. Okay, it is dominated. Is there anybody is dominated? Is candidate 1 is dominated by somebody else, like that it is checking. Okay, so initially we are assuming that candidate 1 is not dominated by anybody. Similarly, we are assuming that candidate 2 is not dominated by anybody, right? Both we are assuming that they are, nobody is, none of the individuals in the comparison set is dominating either candidate 1 or candidate 2, which means that candidate 1 is dominating and also candidate 2 is dominating. That is what we are assuming. But here inside the for loop, basically this for loop, what it does in the sense, it takes every individual value from the domination, from the comparison set, and it checks with candidate 1 and candidate 2 whether somebody is dominating candidate 1 or 2, like that it checks. Okay, so here you can see it checks whether, if S of comparison set index, so this is the comparison set index. Okay, this is something like a for loop. Say if your comparison set contains 100 individuals, then it will go from 1 to 100. Okay, so that particular individual, ith individual, you can assume we are taking that ith individual from the comparison set, and we are checking whether this ith individual of the comparison set is dominating candidate 1 or not. If it is dominating candidate 1, then what happens? Then our assumption is false. Previously we assumed that candidate 1 is not dominated by anybody. So now our assumption becomes false. So we are making it, that is candidate 1 dominated equal to true. That is, there is somebody who is dominating candidate 1 in the comparison set. Okay. Like that we check for candidate 2 also. The same individual, again we check for candidate 2. That is, if S of comparison set, that is S is the array which holds the comparison set, whether that particular individual is that individual is dominating candidate 2. If this individual is dominating candidate 2, then again our assumption about candidate 2 also becomes false. So we say that candidate 2 dominated equal to true. Okay, so this loop basically it finds out whether candidate 1 is dominated by somebody or not, and also it finds out whether candidate 2 is dominated by somebody else or not, right? Somebody else in the comparison set or not. So after coming out of this for loop, just we have to check whether if candidate 1 dominated and candidate 2 and candidate uh, sorry, if candidate 1 dominated, okay, and not candidate 2 dominated, okay, then we are returning candidate 1. Okay, that means candidate 1 dominated if candidate 1 dominated, that is candidate 1 is dominated by somebody, okay, and not candidate 2 dominated, I think this should be candidate 2, then we should return candidate 2, because in this case candidate 1 is dominated, right, and candidate 2 is not dominated, so candidate 2 will be the result, right? Else else if candidate 2 is dominated and not candidate 1 is dominated, in this case we have to return candidate 1, okay, because candidate 1 is not dominated. If both these cases were not satisfied, then it means that either both of them are not dominated or both of them are dominating. In that case we have to identify the Naish count, okay. So if the Naish count of candidate 1 is greater than the Naish count of candidate 2, then it returns actually the Naish count which is greater, they are the fittest one, right, as per the algorithm. If n2 is greater, then c2 is the winner, right? If n1 is less than n2, then choose c2 as the winner, okay. So so but here it is returning n2, so you can assume that this algorithm is not returning the winner, it is returning the loser, okay. Either way it can work, right? If you return the loser also, you can find out who is the winner. So as here also they are returning candidate 1, which means that the algorithm is not returning the winner, it is returning the loser. So if I know who is the loser, then also I can identify who is the winner, right? So here you can see if candidate 1 is dominated and candidate 2 is not dominated, it is returning candidate 1. Similarly, if candidate 2 is dominated and candidate 1 is not dominated, it is returning candidate 2. If these two conditions are not satisfied, then it checks the Naish count. If Naish count of candidate 1 is greater than candidate 2, okay, then the winner is actually candidate 1, but it is returning the loser, so it's return candidate 2, otherwise it returns candidate 1, okay. So this is how the algorithm works. So could someone summarize this algorithm? What do you understand? Yes. What it is returning actually? The algorithm returns what? The loser. Yeah. So it is not returning the winner, it is returning the loser, okay. So what these two steps were doing here? What is this first two, these two things what we are doing here? It identifies what? This, or this step what it does? Yeah, it shuffles all the population, all the individuals available. And what it is, this step what it is doing? It randomly picks up one individual as candidate 1, okay. And what this step is doing? It randomly selects some other individual as candidate 2. That's it, only one individual. What these two steps were mean? Yeah, yeah. So we are assuming initially, we don't know. So we are initially assuming that both of them are not dominated by anybody, okay. But actually whether they are dominated or not, we don't know. For that we are running this for loop. So in this for loop, what this if statement does? Here comparison set creation code is not given. It is assumed that already comparison set is created and it is available for you, okay. So No, no. Candidate 1 is only one element. Okay. Who, candidate 1 is only one element. Candidate 2 is only one element. We have more elements where? In the, yeah. So it compares every element of comparison set with 1, and also it compares every element of comparison set with C2. So this part of code is for comparing what and what. This first if is for comparing what and what. Yeah, comparison set will be compared with candidate 1. Okay. So in this for loop, each iteration it will take only one item from the comparison set. Say for example, let us assume comparison set contains 10 items. Then when the for loop is repeating for the first time, it just compares the first item of the comparison set with who? Candidate 1. Okay. For example, if first item dominates candidate 1, then this candidate 1 dominated will become what? True. Okay. So which means that candidate 1 is okay. It is there is somebody who is dominating him. Okay. So even if once this loop is going to repeat for 10 times, but even if once this condition is true, then candidate 1 becomes dominated. That is, he is not dominating the comparison set. Okay. Similarly, this loop is for comparing, this if is for comparing what? 2. So we are checking whether the particular item of the comparison set is dominating candidate 2. In that case, candidate 2 dominated is made true. So like that, the loop will repeat for 10 times and it will check for every element in the comparison set with the candidate 1 and candidate 2. So after coming out, if candidate 1 is dominated means it is true, which means what? Somebody is there to dominate. If not, if candidate 2 is not dominated means there is nobody is dominating candidate 2. It returns candidate 1. So it says that candidate 1 is the loser. Okay. Else if it says whether candidate 2 is dominated means this is candidate 2 is true. That is, it is dominated and this is not dominated. Okay. Then it returns candidate 2 as the loser. Okay. If these two conditions were not satisfied, then it means that, then what does it mean? If any one of these is that is one possibility. Another possibility is, yeah. So either both are dominated or both are not dominated. In that case, we have to calculate the, yeah, niche count for C1 and for C2. If niche count of C1 is greater than C2, then who is the winner? Who is winner? Okay, but we are returning the loser. So candidate 2 we are returning. Else we are returning candidate 1. Okay. So this is how the algorithm works at the top level. Okay. So here are some of the observations of this algorithm. So this algorithm actually does not apply Pareto selection to the entire population, but only to a segment of it. The technique is very fast and produces a good non-dominated number that can be kept for a large number of generations. However, besides requiring a sharing factor, this approach also requires a good choice of value t-dom to perform well, complicating its appropriate use in practice. So basically what does it say in the sense, say your population means here, population means solution, right? So the solution space, let us assume this is the solution space, okay? But this algorithm, what it does in the sense, it does not apply Pareto selection to the entire population. Okay, it applies Pareto selection to a subset of the population. It identifies a subset, and for that subset only it produces the Pareto solution. Now, who is going to identify this subset? This subset should be identified by the programmer or by the user. So, which is a complex task. Okay, so for example, as a expert, you know that okay, somehow you know that this is the entire solution space, but you identify that the optimal solution is in this area. Then you can apply this algorithm. Otherwise, you cannot apply. Otherwise, to search the entire space, the solution, this approach may take more time or it may be high costly in terms of computing, right? So that is what it says. It does not apply Pareto selection to the entire population, but only to a segment of it. So this segment should be known. So if the expert who is working on the problem, if he knows this segment, that is for which area of the population is going to produce the better solution, if that area is known, somehow you know. So somewhere in this only the good solution or the optimal solution should be lying. So if you can identify that, then you can apply this technique. Okay, right? So that is what it says. Okay. So this is maybe one of the drawback with this approach. Okay. So that's it about this algorithm, which is niched Pareto genetic algorithm. And so far we have discussed a few techniques for solving multi-objective problems using evolutionary algorithm techniques. So generally whatever we have discussed, it can be classified into three categories or three strategies generally we are using. For example, if you take a problem with two optimization, okay, so we are discussing about multi-optimization, which means there are multiple functions to be optimized. So let us assume there are only two functions we have, f1 and f2. Okay. So then how to optimize these two functions f1 and f2? We have three strategies available in general. The first strategy, what it says in the sense, solve f1 separately and solve f2 separately. Okay. And then you identify, when you are solving f1 separately, identify what is the best answer. And when you solve f2 separately, identify what is the best answer. Okay. Maybe when you solve f1 separately, the best answer may be say xi. When you solve f2 separately, the best answer may be xj. Okay. And now you can see like with this, now you have to identify like which will be the best answer, how to identify the best answer. So this is the first technique. The second strategy, what it says in the sense, solve only f1, but use f2 as a constraint to solve f1. So normally when we solve multi-objective problem, we use constraints, right? There will be some constraint. There will be an objective function and also there will be constraint. So here you want to solve two functions f1 and f2, solve the problem for f1, but use this f2 as a constraint. Okay, that is given this condition, solve f1. Otherwise the reverse way, solve f2, use f1 as a constraint. This is second strategy. Third strategy, what it says in the sense, you just perform union operation on the two functions and then solve it. Okay, so these are the three generic strategies which are generally used to solve multi-objective evolutionary problem. Okay. For example, if you remember, there is an approach called lexicographic technique, which we have discussed. It is actually a non-Pareto based technique. Okay. Could you recollect? Could someone say how lexicographic approach works? Today you have test one also, you might have recalled. Could someone summarize? So, yeah, after that, okay, second step. Yeah, when you do for the next individual, one more constraint will be added. What is that? Exactly. The previous result will be added as a constraint. What are you getting? So that is what is the second strategy says. Okay. So one function we will use solve, but the second function we will use as a constraint. Okay. So lexicographic is a technique, is an example for strategy 2. Right. So similarly, we have discussed some strategy like weighted sum approach. This is also one strategy. In weighted sum approach, you have multiple functions: f1, f2, f3, so on up to fn. So here our objective is to just identify weights for each function. That is weightage. How much importance this function holds? How much importance this function holds? So for every function, you have to identify a weight. W1, W2 up to Wn, and then we make a summation of that. So the whole problem is it is boiled down to finding the weights. But this finding the weights is not an easier task. It is heavily computationally intensive one, right? And then we have discussed several Pareto based techniques. So Pareto based techniques in the sense they won't give single answer. They will give a Pareto friend as a solution. So the set of solutions available in the Pareto optimal friend will be treated as a solution, and all these solutions will be non-dominating each other. So this is something like a partial summary of whatever we have discussed so far. But still, this MOOC concept is not over. Still, we will be continuing. So the next algorithm that we will be discussing is called as NSGA, which stands for non-dominated sorting genetic algorithm. Non-dominated sorting. Okay. So this term itself you can understand. Non-dominated means it is Pareto. Okay. So Pareto, it is otherwise called as non-dominated set. That's all, right? So a Pareto set is what? It is a non-dominated set. Okay. So it is a non-dominated sorting algorithm, means it is a Pareto-based sorting algorithm. So these are the two scientists or the researchers who proposed these algorithms in 1994. So see, one thing you can observe, whatever the algorithms we are studying, you see these are comparatively they are very recent. See, if you have seen other courses, any other courses, if you see most of the algorithms, they might have proposed in early 1940s or 50s or 60s during the time when computers were introduced. But these algorithms, if you see, it is in almost all the algorithms, whatever we have discussed, all in mid 1990s. So which also says that this topic itself is very new. Soft computing, okay, is very new, and also it is ignored. It is ignored for at least for 1 or 2 decades, okay, until this machine learning boom happens. Since 2012, nobody bothered about machine learning. Okay, after that only there was a paper which was published on deep learning, which produced great results, especially on working with images, okay, especially for image search, all those things, okay. So later only it got picked up. You might have also observed, see for example, Google image search, it is working properly only for the past 10-15 years, past 10 to 12 years. Before that, they are not using machine learning technique for Google search at all. They are using some other technique, and it won't work properly, right? Even this Google Translate, you can see for the past 2-3 years, Google Translate has improved so much. Now you can give some English text and you can convert to Telugu or Hindi or any other language. It converts very nicely. Almost you will be 90% it is okay. Some text you may have to change. But I remember, if you just go back 5-6 years back, it is not like that. Its conversion will be, its translation rate will be very poor. So whatever the input we are giving now for translating, so Google is using that as a training set, and they are running the algorithm in the background, and they improve the algorithm. Okay, so for that they are using machine learning techniques. Okay, so now Google, Facebook, Twitter, they are all using machine learning techniques, right? So soft computing is also it is a one class of artificial intelligence. Okay, like machine learning is one class, Like that, soft computing is also another class, right? Okay. So this is published in this paper, IEEE Transaction on Evolutionary Computing. So all IEEE transactions are very standard papers. See, it would be better even, so far we have discussed many algorithms. So actually we are discussing this algorithm only in brief. We are not going in detail. Like we are not taking a problem and we are not solving it. If you do that, probably I think we can do only one problem. I mean one algorithm. Uh, but I advise you to at least go through this paper and to study at least one paper thoroughly, because that may help you a lot. Okay. So this algorithm, what it does in the sense, basically it does two things. It creates a non-dominated sorting procedure. First it gives some ranking, a ranking selection method to select good non-dominated points. What is non-dominated points? What is meant by non-dominated? Yeah. So yeah, non-dominated means they are Pareto friend. Okay. So it identifies the non-dominated points and it gives a rank for that, right? And then it uses a Naiche method, which is used to maintain stable subpopulation of good points. Okay. So what is that? So this Naiche method. So see what it says in the sense. Say for example, the solution is something like this. That is, you have points here, here, here. So this is one non-dominated friend. Let us assume this is something like this. So this is F5, so this is F1 and this is F2. Okay. So this is one non-dominated friend. Now we are going to rank this. Probably you may rank this as 1. All the solutions here are rank 1. All the solutions here are rank 2. All the solutions here are rank 3. Then we will give some fitness value. For all these solutions, now we will give same fitness value, because they are in the same non-dominated set or in the same Pareto optimal friend. So for example, you may give all these things the fitness value 1000, because they are the most fittest, rank 1. For all these things, you may provide a fitness value 500. These three solutions are of, they are non-dominating. Okay. And for all these three solutions, and for this in the rank 3 category, you may give a rank 100. That means every solution in this set is equal, every solution in this set is equal, every solution in this set is equal. That is what this first step is going to do. It is going to rank by selecting the non-dominated points. Okay. So it is something like categorizing. You are saying that this non-dominated point is better than this non-dominated points, and this non-dominated point is better than this non-dominated points. Okay. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to use the Naiche method, and we are going to we are going to again assign fitness score among these three. Here, okay, you say all these are 1000, but for mutation I want to select. For example, for mutation I want to select somebody from here, but I want someone who is best of these three. Okay, how could I identify that? So that is actually done by this Naiche method. So this Naiche method actually provides a procedure to rank these individuals. They are non-dominated, but still is there any way to say that this individual's fitness score is more than this, or this individual's score is better than this? Like that can be calculated. So that will be done by this Naiche method. Okay. So this is what the two steps it does. So to summarize, the first step is to assign rank based on non-dominated set, and after assigning rank, it assigns a shared fitness score for a given rank. That is, all the individuals who share a particular rank will share their fitness score also. That is the first step. And the second step, what the algorithm does in the sense, it uses a Naiche method to identify the unique fitness score for every individual in a particular non-dominated set. Okay. So this is what it is going to do. Now let us see exactly how it works. I think you are following. So here we use some parameters. P represents the set of solution, or P is, you can say, it's the entire population. P stands for population. So all the initial set of solutions or input population is called as P. Xi denotes the ith solution, some ith solution which is of interest, which is of our interest. We want to identify whether this ith solution is a good fit or not. So some ith solution is Xi. Okay. Si denotes the set of solution which dominate the solution Xi. Okay. So Si denotes the set of solution which dominates Xi. That is, how many solutions are dominating Xi. That is Si. Okay. Pa denotes a non-domination friend at the kth level. Pa denotes the non-dominated friend at the kth level. Output as sorting based on the non-dominating rank of a solution. So, for example, say this is the function f1. You want to maximize f1. Say f2 also you want to maximize. Now these are the points. Let us assume these are the solutions. Now you can say that this is one non-dominating friend. This is another non-dominating friend. This is another non-dominating friend. So now we can say that this non-dominating friend, you can say this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3. They are, see, all, nobody is dominating these 3. Out of these 3, nobody is dominating them. But these 3 solutions were dominated by these 3 solutions. Okay. So this is level 1. In level 1, we have this 3 as non-dominated set. In level 2, we have this 3. Okay. So Pk denotes a non-dominated friend at the kth level. At the given level, what are the non-dominated individuals? Okay. Ni denotes the domination count. That is the number of solution which dominates Xi. So if you see here, Si denotes what? The set of solution which dominates Xi. Where Ni denotes like how many solutions are dominating Xi. So basically Ni is the count of Si. Okay. So could you say what is P here? What is P? Set of all solutions. What is Xi? Yeah. What is Si? Yeah. Set of solutions which dominates Xi. What is N? Count of Si. Good, good. What is P? At the kth level. Yeah. If, for example, if Si is empty set, assume Si is empty set, then what is Ni? 0. Yes. Okay. If Si is empty set, then Ni will be 0. In that case, what will be the rank of Xi? Recall rank. No, no. Recall rank definition. Yesterday we have discussed what is the definition. Yeah. So what is the rank? 1. 1. Nobody dominates Xi. Okay. So rank will be 1. Is it clear? Okay. So basically we want to identify. So we are going to identify, like, first we'll pick up some Xi. Then we will check whether somebody is dominating Xi or not. If somebody is dominating Xi, then we will add it to the set yes. Okay. So then based on that we will identify the rank of X. Okay. So we are using all these parameters, right? So let us see this example. Here you can see there are two functions f1 and f2. Here we want to maximize f1 and also maximize f2. Okay. So if you want to maximize f1 and maximize f2, then which of these solutions will have rank 1? Yeah, what are they? This is the entire population. So here there are four friends marked: friend 1, friend 2, friend 3, friend 4. With this you can say which one will have rank 1. What will be the rank of this all these individuals who is in friend 1? Yeah, they all will they are all their rank will be 1. Okay, because they are in the non-optimal, they are in the first level of non-optimal friend, or in the first level of Pareto optimal friend. Okay, Pareto optimal friend or non-dominating friend, not non-optimal, right? So that is F1 maximum means it should be towards right, and F2 maximum means it should be towards top. Okay, so if you see this, they are almost lying in the same line. So they are so all these individuals will have same rank, and also they are not dominating each other. What about these individuals? In front 2, what will be their rank? So, so, so these are the individuals in front 2. There, okay, for example, for if, how will you calculate its rank? If you want to calculate its rank, how will you calculate? Say 1 point. Say I want to calculate the rank of this individual. How will you calculate? It is the set of solutions. You have to identify what? You have to identify the set of solutions which is this solution. Okay. So which are the solution which is dominating this solution? Any idea? Which are the solution which is dominating this solution? They should be lying where? See, we are maximizing both F1 and F2. So those towards right and towards top. That means what? The solution which are lying here. Are you getting? Okay. How many solutions are here? How many are lying? So in this area, how many are there? This line also you have to consider. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. So that is the value of what? Pi. Okay. So rank will be 5. So rank is equal to 5. Okay. Like that we can identify the rank, right? So this is in case of max, both are maximizing. If it is one max, one min, then appropriately you have to change and you have to check. Okay. So here, so basically this diagram what it shows in the sense, for example, if you take here it is trying to explain all these parameters. So let us take this xi, this let us take this point as xi. If you take this point as xi, then what is si? It denotes the set of solutions which dominate xi. So which are the solutions which dominates xi? Which are the solutions which dominates xi? Now again it is similar to rank, right? So these are the, yeah. So these are the solutions which dominates xi basically. Okay. So that is they should be lying towards right and also towards the top. So these three are the solutions which is dominating xi. Okay. If this point is xi, then that will be si. Then that will be si. Now what will be ni? 3. That is the number of solutions in that. Okay. And uh, and pk denotes the non-dominated friend at the kth level. So here if you see at the first level, the non-dominating friend is this set of points. So this is at the first level the non-dominating friend. So it means that these are the best individuals. These are the best individual. Now, if you want to find the next best individual, if you want to identify the next best individual, let us then remove this from the population. Just remove all these individuals, because already we know that these are the best individuals. Now, whatever the uh, now now these individuals will get first rank. If you remove this, then who will be first rank? Whoever is in the front two, they will be first rank. So now you can identify that all these individuals will be all in the next level. Okay. Similarly, if you remove this, then who will be in the first rank? Front three. Yeah. So this is how the algorithm works. First, the algorithm will identify the Pareto optimal friend at the top level, and it assigns rank 1, and then all the rank 1 individuals will be removed, and then it identifies next level of rank 1. So they are also in the Pareto optimal friend. Then it removes that, then it identifies the next level of individuals. Okay. After removing this, then who will be assigned rank 1? The one in the front 4. Yeah. Okay. So this is how the algorithm works, right? So here is the algorithm. So let us see how it works. So basically, it takes an individual xi and it checks whether anybody is dominating this xi or not. If somebody is dominating xi, they will be added to si. That is the set si, so on and so forth. Okay. So let us walk through the algorithm. For each xi belongs to p. P is the population. So xi is one individual. One individual from the population we are taking. Okay. And then what we are doing, for all xj not equal to xi and xj belong to p. What does it mean? That is, see, assume that p contains 10 individuals, 1 to 10. So now I am picking one individual xi. Say let this be the first individual. Say x1. Okay, so x1 I already picked. Now the second iteration, what it says in the sense, for all xj which is not equal to xi. That is, I am going to compare this x1 with everybody in this population. Okay, with everybody in this population, but that individual should not be equal to the first individual. Is that is clear? Because currently we have taken which individual? First individual, right? So for all xj, this represents xj. So this xj should be compared with x1. Okay, but xj should not be equal to what? X1, exactly. Okay, because you cannot compare the same individual with himself. There is no point in doing that, right? So that this condition is there for all xj not equal to xi. So everybody from this list should be compared with xi, but such that xj should not be equal to xi, other than xi, and xj should belong to the population. Okay. So xj belong to the population means everybody from this population should be compared, but xj should not be equal to this xi. Okay. Then what we check, if xi is less than or equal to xj, the problem is minimizing. The problem is minimizing. So if xi is less than or equal to xj, then who is dominating who? Yes. See, in all algorithms, we are considering as minimization as a generalization of concept. Okay. So if xi is less than xj, then who is dominating whom? Our objective is to minimize. Yes. So xi is dominating xj. Okay. So it means that xi is dominating xj. Okay. That is, if xi dominates xj, then si is equal to si union xj. Okay, that is, in si we are adding that we are adding that xi dominates xj. Okay, so in Si we are adding xj is added, that is Si dominates xj. Okay, else if xj is less than or equal to xi, right? Else, see here, what is ni? You recall what is ni? No, not that ni. In this algorithm, what is ni? Domination count. That is how many. See, actually, there is a slight difference between the algorithm and this implementation. Here, Si represents what? Set of solutions which dominates Xj. Okay, that is capital S, capital Si. But this here it is small Si. This small Si is what, if you see properly, if xi is dominating xj, then we are adding it to si. Okay, so we are adding xj. So what does it mean? Who is dominating whom? Xi is dominating or xj is dominating? Xi is dominating xj. So whoever is added in this list, they are dominated by xi, right? Okay. But what should be ni? Which si? This si or the other si? What is that? Ni should be, is there anybody is dominating ith individual? This is what ni. Is it clear? Ni should be what? How many individuals are dominating the ith individual? xi. Okay. So here you see, else if xj is less than or equal to xi, what does this means? If xj is less than or equal to xi, then who is dominating who? If xj is dominating xi, in this case we are incrementing ni. Is that is clear? Is it clear? So basically this ni is same. So ni already always holds like how many individual is dominating xi, right? But other than this capital Si, here we are using a small si. This small si contains the set of individuals who are dominated by xi. Okay, right? So this is how you do, like this we do. After coming out, we check. After coming out, see here what we are checking. If ni is equal to 0, if ni is equal to 0, then what does it mean? Yeah, there is no one dominating xi. Okay, if that is the case, then xi will be coming in which front? These are the different front. If nobody is dominating this individual, then he will come in which front? Front 1. Yeah. What's the doubt in that? Then if nobody is dominating some individual, all these individuals are in which front? Front 1. Okay. So there, then now we are noting down their front. If ni is equal to 0, keep xi in P1, that is in the first front. Okay. And then front counter k is equal to 1. Right? So we are basically identifying who is the, so basically this iteration what it does in the sense who is in the first front. It identifies that. Right? Then what it does, for each xi belongs to P, ni is equal to 0, si is equal to null set. Okay, so this will come, this will identify the first front. So basically it will identify all the individuals in which front? First front. After executing this entire algorithm, what will be in P1? What will be in P1? Yes. See what is here. See this first step what it does, it checks whether xi is dominated by somebody or not. If xi is dominated by somebody else, then we increment ni. Otherwise we don't increment ni. Okay. Then we come out and check whether ni becomes 0 or not. if Ni is 0 or not. If Ni is 0, then it means that Xi is not dominated by anybody. Then we add Xi to P1. Okay. Like that we do for all values of all individuals. Okay. So after coming out of this for loop, what will be in P1? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it will be all the individuals in front one. Okay, so we have identified all the individuals in the front one, right? Next, what we have to do, similarly, you have to identify all the individuals in other fronts. So this is the logic for identifying all the individuals in other fronts. So this is the logic for this is the one which identifies all the individuals in the first front. Okay, it's up to this only. There is nothing, right? So next we have to identify all the individuals in the other fronts. So for that what we do, while Pk is equal to null set. Actually this is an algorithm. So it means that you can consider this as while Pk not equal to null set. Okay. So until it is not equal to null set, it will repeat. Right. So the way of implementing varies with different programming languages. Okay. So this is an algorithm. So just what you understand, what you should understand in the sense, as long as pk is not null, it will return. It will repeat. Okay. Currently our pk is not null because we have p1. In p1 there are some individuals who is in the front one. Okay. So it gets in. Initialize q is equal to null set. So q is an empty set. Then what we do, for each xi belongs to pk, you take one individual from this p1, that is who is in the first front, front 1, take one individual, that is xi from pk, and for each xi belongs to si. Okay, xj belongs to si, and for each xj belongs to si. As per this si is null set, let us assume si is null. Okay. Update nj equal to nj minus 1. If nj is equal to 0, then xj in q. Then keep xj in q. Else q is equal to q union. Then if nj is equal to 0, then xj in q. Else q is equal to q union xj. See what will see. Please try to understand what this exactly doing in the sense. See, P1 is initially what P1 contains all the individuals in the front one. Okay, these are front one. Initially Q is empty. So what it does, for each xi belongs to Pk, you take one individual from P1, right? We take the first individual from P1, and for each xj belongs to Si, we are going to do this. Initially our Q is empty, right? Update nj equal to nj minus 1, right? That is for this individual, for this particular individual xi, his n value, we are going to subtract it by 1. Okay. But what is its n value? Nj, ni is what? Ni is so here ni represents what? Ni represents what? Count of Si. That is how many individuals are dominating this individual, right? Hmm? How many individuals are dominating the ith individual? That is what is ni contains, right? Okay. So what we do, for the jth individual, we are subtracting nj equal to nj minus 1. Okay. So basically what it checks in the sense, after subtracting, suppose if nj becomes 0. Okay. Suppose after subtracting, if nj becomes 0, then it means that there is, after subtracting, if nj becomes 0, then it means that there is only a one individual who is, there is only one individual who is better than this individual. Okay, so it means that it should come in the second front. So it means it should come in the second front, so we are adding it in the queue. Okay, and we are updating k equal to k plus 1. Okay, so like that it finds the next round of individuals, right? So there should be only a one individual who is what do you call, better than this individual. So we are when you subtract 1, it becomes 0, so then it is added to the queue. Okay, so like that it finds the set of individuals which are lying in the front 2. This is the complexity of this algorithm. It is order of m square, where m is the number of objective and n is the population size. So it is a multi-objective optimization problem. So the different objectives, how many objectives you want to solve, and where n is the population size. So if you see this case, this is maximize f1 and maximize f2. So these two are in the same front. These two are in the same front, and this is in one front. Okay, these two are not dominating each other. This is not dominating each other. Here there is only one solution. Okay, so how the algorithm works in the sense, initially these two will have the rank 1, this will have rank 2, this will have rank 3. Okay, and then it will assign some fitness value for this, a common fitness value, shared fitness value for these two individuals, and a shared fitness value for these two individuals, and a fitness value for this. Then it has to identify. So this is the first step. Then the second step is the ninth step, where it has to identify the updated fitness score for individuals. So how is that is done? Okay, so there are three non-dominated front in this diagram. There are three non-dominated front. This is one, and this is one. Okay. The solution in the front or 3, 5 is the best one. So the best solution is what? 3, 5. And the next best solution is 1, 4. Okay, and the worst solution is 2. So this is how they are categorized. So 3, 5, this is best, 1, 4 is next best, and this is the least best or worst solution. So these two solutions fall in the same category. You can call it as rank 1, and this 2 falls in the next category, maybe rank 2. This is next category, rank 3. So NSGA is based on several front of classification of individuals. So this is how. So this is like that it classifies. This is front 1, front 2, front 3. Like that it classifies the individual into several front. It finds a front at a particular rank and then assigns a fitness value called dummy fitness value to each solution in the front by following, okay, by sharing the fitness value. Okay, so that is all the individuals in a particular front will share the same fitness value. This fitness value we call it as dummy fitness value. All the individuals in the given front will share the same fitness value, which is called as dummy fitness value. It then selects some individuals based on shared fitness values of the individuals for mating pool. Okay, so reproduce offspring for next generation and thus completes the iteration. Now from the shared fitness, I mean in a given front, all the individuals will be sharing their fitness value. From this it will select some individual for mating pool. Okay, but in between that there is a step like before selecting, it is going to replace this dummy fitness value with some other fitness value. Okay, right? So here is an overall explanation of the algorithm. Start with the initial population, identify the individuals in the front 1. Okay, you check his population is classified, that is identify non-dominated individuals, that is the Pareto optimal front. Assign dummy fitness value, fitness sharing. Okay, that is assign dummy fitness value In the sense, everybody in the given friend will take the same fitness score. Similarly, do it for the other friends also. Friend 1, friend 2, friend 3. Maybe different friend available in the solution. Depends on the solution. Okay. Then select the individuals for mating pool and then go for reproduction. Then evaluate the individual and check whether it is converged or not. Okay. Yeah. So once all non-dominated individuals are identified, it assigns a unique fitness value for each belongs to the friend, and that is called as dummy fitness value. The dummy fitness value is a very large number and typically is proportional to the number of population. Okay, so this dummy fitness value which we are assigning for the one particular rank, that will be a large number. But later this dummy fitness value will be replaced by some other number. Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss. So see this, the same fitness value is assigned to give an equal reproductive potential to all the individuals belong to the friend. A higher value is assigned to individuals in a upper layer friend to ensure selection pressure, that is having better chance to be selected for mating. As we grow an upper front, as we move from upper front to the lower front, the count of individuals are ignored. Okay, and thus number of population successively decrease as we move from one front to next. So basically it says that every individual in a higher front, they will share the same rank. Okay, their rank will be same, and it is highly likely that someone in the higher front will be selected for mating rather than someone in the lower front. In the given front, all individuals are assigned with dummy fitness value, which is proportional to the number of population. These classified individuals are then shared with their dummy fitness values. Sharing is achieved by dividing the dummy fitness value by a quantity proportional to the number of individuals around it. This quantity is called as Naish count. See, this is what you should understand. So basically what it says in the sense, assume something like this. Assume this is the front one. Assume in front one there are many individuals. Now for all these individuals you assign a dummy fitness value. Okay, say that the dummy fitness value assigned is 1000, right? Now what you should do in the sense, this statement what it says in the sense, sharing is achieved by dividing the dummy fitness value by a quantity proportional to the number of individuals around it. This is called as the Naish count. So now for every individual you have to identify how many are its neighbor. Maybe there will be some radius. So based on that you have to identify how many neighbors are here. So for this individual, if there is only one neighbor, okay, then you do 1 by 1000, right? 1 by 1000, whatever the value, that will be its Naish count. Similarly for this individual, you see how many its neighbor. If this individual has two neighbors, then its Naish count will be 2 by 1000. Similarly for every individual, you see how many neighbors they have based on some radius. So that number divided by 1000, that is 1000 is the shared fitness score, that will give their Naish count. Okay, now every individual on this front have a Naish count. Okay, so based on this Naish count, we are going to calculate this Naish count will be used to identify like who is better than who in a particular front. Because say for example, this front has many individuals, say 1000 individuals are in this front. Now the algorithm will always try to select individuals from this front for mating pool. But as per the algorithm, everybody is same. They are not dominating each other. Now, is there any way to identify who is better than who? So for that only this Naish count is used. Okay. I guess you are following. So could someone summarize how this Naish count works? Yeah. Hmm. Is it always 1000 divided by what? divided by 1000. I gave an example. What is that? That is the dummy fitness score. Okay, that is the dummy fitness score. What is the dummy fitness score? For every individual in a particular friend, there will be a common dummy fitness. Yeah, unique fitness in the friend. Okay. For example, if there is another friend, okay, all these individuals will have what? All these individuals will have some other dummy fitness score, right? If these individuals have 1000, then these individuals may have a dummy fitness score like 500. Okay, so in this case, for this friend, if you want to identify the H value, it should be divided by what? Yeah, you have to identify the neighbors within a particular radius and divide it by 500, right? So overall speaking, the algorithm, what it does, first it ranks the individual by identifying the Pareto optimal friend, or we can call it as non-dominating friend. So it identifies different non-dominating friend at different level. The first level non-dominating friend, that is friend 1, will be rank 1, friend 2 rank 2, friend 3 rank 3, like that it identifies. Then for each friend, the individuals as falling in a particular friend, they will be assigned a common fitness score, that is called as dummy fitness value. That is called as dummy fitness value. Okay, and then what it does, so that is the first step. The second step is to identify the, yes, the second step is to identify the Naiche count. That is, for in the given friend, it selects every individual and it checks like how many are lying in the radius. So depending on the number of individuals lying in the radius, that will be divided by its what do you call, the dummy fitness score. So that will give the Naiche count. Okay, right? So see if you recall this definition, there is no hard and fast rule that exactly you have to identify the number of individuals in the given radius and uh, divided by the what do you call, the dummy fitness score. That is one technique. So if you read this, sharing is achieved by dividing the dummy fitness value by a quantity proportional to the number of individuals around it. Okay, so there are different ways of doing this. Here one method is shown how we are going to divide. Okay, so sh of dij is equal to 1 minus dij divided by t shared, the whole squared. Okay, where dij represents the number of individuals who are the neighbors. Okay, so this is the, if this is the non dominating friend, then for this individual how many are in the neighbors, that is dij. Okay, divided by t shared is the shared fitness score for this friend. Okay, the whole square and 1 minus we are doing, right? So it is some manipulation of that value. If nobody is lying, if nobody is neighbor for this individual, say there is an individual here, there is nobody is neighbor to him, then what will be his Naiche score? As per this, his Naiche score is 0. Okay, right? So if there is nobody, then the Naiche score will be 0. Okay. So here it is not nobody. If dij is less than t shared, you follow this. Otherwise, it is 0. Okay. The quantity is calculated by computing a sharing coefficient denoted as sh of dij between individuals xi and xj belong to the friend as per the following. Right? Yeah. So this t share is distance. Okay, it is not the in this case this t share is the distance. It is not the shared value. It is the distance. Okay. So how many individuals are lying within this distance? So for example, maybe you may consider as uh, for say 100 centimeters or 500 centimeters. How many are within this range? Okay. So if there are uh, x individuals, then x divided by t shared. If nobody within this range, then it is 0. Fine, let us stop here for today's session. So today we have test 1. I think you are preparing.